That was the first answer of the Gemara. That the reason why it's not a contradiction, because it's two rabbis holding differently. And the Gemara says that whether a child will go to Golut for killing his father, the Gemara said, is dependent on whether what's considered the stronger punishment. Is Saif, getting killed by the sword, a stronger punishment? Or is Chenek considered a stronger punishment? The Gemara said yesterday. The Gemara said, if you hold that the sword is a stronger punishment than Chenek and strangulation, so then if a child will kill his father intentionally, his punishment now he's obligated to miso, 2 deaths. He has 2 death sentences on him. 1, he's obligated death for killing his father. 2, he's obligated death for wounding his father. Because if a child wounds his father, he's obligated death without killing his father. Correct? It's true, but so there's 2 punishments that come at the same time, let's say. But so what do? We give him the stronger punishment. Correct? We don't kill the kid twice. So now the question is, which punishment will the child get? If a child wounds his father, makes a wound, a black and blue mark on his father, and he was warned, he gets killed with chenek, strangulation. If a child kills his father, if a child would kill an ordinary person, he would get the sword. So now that he killed his father, so he is obligated 2 deaths, 1 with the sword, 1 with the strangulation. Which one will we give the child? So the ruling is, you want a doctrine of it, you give the child a stronger punishment. So which is the stronger punishment? Is strangulation stronger? Is the sword stronger? So the Gemara says that's a machloket. There's the different opinions in the Gemara. What's the stronger punishment? So if you hold strangulation is the stronger punishment, so then for killing his father, he'll get strangulation. If you say the sword is a stronger punishment, so for killing his father, he'll get the sword. Okay? Is that clear, Mr. Safdie? Now, once that's the case, now we can explain whether the child will go to Golut for unintentionally killing his father. So if you hold that the punishment that the child would get, now, also another given is, when does the Torah say a person goes to Golut? What's the situation that a person goes to exile? Is if he would have done it for murder, when a person kills an ordinary person, what is the punishment? Sword. Gets killed by the sword. And that's the case. The Torah says if you kill someone unintentionally, you go to exile. Okay? So it comes out that exile, Golut, is a shogeg, is a punishment, if a person kills someone unintentionally, if he does it unintentionally, he goes to exile. If he would have done that same thing intentionally, he would have got the sword. That's the case. Now, good morning, Kevin. But in this case, but now, so if you say the son, for killing his father, would get the sword, so then he should go to exile if he did it unintentionally, because it's a match. It's like everybody else. What'd you say? That's it. That's right, because the only time we find that exile is enough is on a case of intentionally he gets killed by the sword. The crime of murder, which carries with it the death penalty of the sword, intentionally, the Torah says he gets the penalty of exile if he does it unintentionally. That's a regular person. No, excuse me. No, there's no, because there's no golut for such cases. There's no exile for such cases. Exile is only as a result of murder. The punishment, the Torah says, is only as a result of unintentional. If he did some other punishment that carries with the death penalty, and he did it b'shogeg, he doesn't go to exile. Right, Mrs. Safdie? Doesn't go to exile. The only time a person goes to exile is only when he murdered someone. Period. And the case where Torah says he goes to exile for murdering someone is a case where if he would have done it intentionally, he would get killed by the sword. Now they did it unintentionally, he gets killed, goes to exile. But therefore, it would make sense. If you hold the sword as the hard, stronger punishment, so therefore the son would have obligated to the sword if he did it intentionally. Now he did it unintentionally, he should go to exile like everybody else. But the other opinion that says that the son does not go to exile, because they hold that if the son would kill the father intentionally, he would get chenek, strangulation. Why? Because they hold that strangulation is a stronger punishment over the sword. If that's the case, strangulation is a stronger punishment. So now that if he did that unintentionally, killed his father, now you want to say he should go to exile? Exile is not enough, because the crime that he committed unintentionally is a stronger type of crime that he did than the case that the Torah says that a person will go to exile. Because the type of situation that the Torah says a person goes to exile, when he committed a type of crime that if he would have done it intentionally, he would get the sword. But if a guy does a type of crime that if he does it intentionally, he doesn't get the sword. He gets a stronger punishment. So therefore, doing it unintentionally, exile will not be enough. And therefore he would be exempt from exile. Because like we've said before, in order to go to exile, exile has to meet the punishment has to fit the crime. And if the crime, if the act was too serious, was stronger than what the normal way to go to exile is, you will not go to exile. Like we said, if a person was grossly negligent, so when we killed, let's say grossly negligent, but it wasn't intentional to kill the guy, but it was negligent. That's not, the court doesn't kill a person. When a person was grossly negligent, but he didn't intend to kill somebody, but he was very, very negligent. Let's say the example, let's say a guy, he knows there's somebody in front of him, he knows there's a baby in front of him, and he's jumping up and down, and he knows he might hit the baby. He's going down the slide, and he might hit the baby, but he doesn't mean to hit the baby. But what are you doing? You know there's a baby there. What are you doing? So therefore, grossly negligent exile is not enough. Not enough. Even though you didn't, the court can't kill the guy because it didn't intend to kill the baby. But to send him to exile when he did such a high-level crime because he was negligent, grossly negligent, it's not enough of a kapara. It's not enough for the Torah. So that's what the Gemara is saying. Yes. Let me just, yes. Right, the Rabbanan say if the son father. Rabbanan do not talk about exile. Rabbi Shimon don't talk about exile. You know what they talk about? They talk about the punishment, the type of punishments. They only talk about what is a stricter punishment. And really, you're right. And based on what they hold the stricter punishment would be, is what the punishment would be. Exactly. They first.
Whatever you pay attention, you kill your father, you go to exile at the bottom line, right?
It depends. Again, which opinion? According to the Rabbanan say yes, he would go to exile. Yes, if he kills his father. Sorry, I'm saying yes, he would go to exile. One second. It would come out. According to this, according to the opinion, yes, because if he did it intentionally, he gets the sword. Unintentionally, he'll go to exile. Or the previous.
So, if the son won this, what would be the sentence?
According to Rabbanan, that the Rabbanan say. Right. Rabbanan would say he gets. Everyone agrees. If he wounds his father, he gets chenek, gets strangulation.
At the end, strangulation.
They're gonna kill the son. Right.
So how do you understand Rabbanan? If he wants his father, he gets chenek, and if he kills, he goes to exile. It's like lower sentence.
When he gets death for you're wrong. When he gets death for causing a wound to his father, that's when he intentionally the kavanah caused the wound to his father.
And
Exile is only when he unintentionally, he did not intend to kill his
so
father.
if you want his father, you go to
If he intentionally, if he wound his father, okay. But you'll get us. Now you want to know if he
on the same
wound his father unintentionally.
kill his father and actually do what?
Right. If he kills his father intentionally,
The
Bemezid, according to the Rabbanan, he gets the sword. He gets the sword.
If he wound his father, he get what?
Chenet. He gets strangled. Bemezid.
And now Beshodet. What's the two cases Beshodet for wound and kill?
So according to Rabbanan, if he would, according to this, what would he go to exile if he wounded his father? That's your question?
Yes.
So here's Aaron's question. Aaron's question is, if the son wounded his father, Bishogeg, right. So now, the Rabbanan say that Saif, the sword, is a stricter punishment than strangulation, correct? Now, being that's the case, so if he wounded his father unintentionally, so intentionally he would get strangulation. Unintentional, so now he will not go to exile. Why not? Tell you why he won't go to exile. Because if the strangulation is less of a punishment than the sword, so the only time the Torah says he's required to go to exile, he goes to exile, if he did a crime that would have carried with it the punishment of, if he did it intentionally, he would get the sword. So unintentionally, he gets exile. But if he did the crime and we get strangulation, which is a lower punishment than the sword, it's not as strong as the sword, so if he did the same crime unintentionally, he should not go to exile, because you can't, because the punishment of exile is only when you did a type of crime that if you would have done it intentionally would carry the sword. But that's the case of the Torah, that the Torah says the guy goes to exile, is a case when if you would have done that act intentionally, you get the sword. Meaning when a person kills somebody, an ordinary person kills another ordinary person, the punishment is by the sword. That's the case the Torah says. If you did that sin unintentionally, he goes to exile. Is that clear? It's a type of crime, but if the crime, if wounding the father, if strangulation is lower level crime than the sword, lower level punishment, so you can't give the guy, if he wounds his father, you can't send him to exile. He did a crime which is not as strong as the other crime. That means the crime of killing someone is stronger than the crime of the wounding his father. Because if the punishment for wounding the father is a lower punishment than killing somebody, if your whole strangulation is lower, Teskila, Sreifa, Hereg, Chenek. That's how we have to know. Those are the four. But whether which one is Skila, and I presume that might be the order, but there's some opinions. But Skila is throwing the person down from a certain height, and that's called Skila. And then if he doesn't die from that, we stone him. That's Skila. Sreifa is he drinks hot lead. He drinks. We don't burn the body. We don't burn anybody. We just drinks hot lead, and he drinks it, and then he dies. As we know that. Hereg is the sword. It's killed by the sword, and chenek is strangulation with pulled by his neck. They wrap something around his neck, and they pull it, and he's gone. Those are the four types of. You hear what I'm answering, Yaron? So according to Rabbanan, if the sword is a stricter punishment, so therefore, if he does a crime of causing a wound to his father, which the punishment is lower than the sword, if you're according to Rabbanan, because strangulation is lower than the sword, so you can't give him exile for something. But then you can ask your question, what would he hold? What would the other opinion hold? According to the opinion that says that chenek is stronger than Saif, right? And according to the other opinion that says chenek, strangulation, is stronger than Saif, stronger than beheading, than the sword. So the child, so he also shouldn't go to exile, because exile would not be enough, because he did a stronger type of sin if he went ahead and he if he killed this, if he caused a wound to his father.
So basically, if you kill the guy who killed your father, for the Rabbanan, is the same.
Say that again.
For Rabbanan, if you kill your father or you kill someone else, you get the same sentence.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And the Rabbanan would hold that if a kid kills his father or he kills an ordinary person, then he'll get the same punishment of the sword. No. The question is what type of punishment? Meaning, according to Rabbanan, if a person kills his father, what is it? What is the punishment a person gets for killing his father intentionally? According to Rabbanan, they get the sword. But according to Rav Shimon, that if a person kills his father intentionally, what does he get? Chenek. That's the erroneous point here. So if he gets the sword, if he kills his father intentionally, he get the son kills his father intentionally, he gets the sword.
So therefore, the last one before, because if you do it before again, you go to exile. So that
Exactly.
must be the last one. Strangulation must be before the
You go to which opinion you going on now?
of what we just said.
For Rabbanan.
Yeah.
No, but the Rabbanan is saying that the hereg is stronger than chenek. Hereg is stronger than chenek. Skila, streifa, hereg, chenek, which makes a lot of sense. That order fits in according to Rabbanan. Most probably, I presume the halachas of Rabbanan. Skila, streifa, hereg is more stronger than chenek. And therefore, hereg, which is the sword, is stronger than chenek. Therefore, if the child killed his father, he will get the sword. Intentionally. And unintentionally, he'll go to exile. Good? Well, like everybody else.
What about if he kills his brother?
It's the same punishment. Same punishment. Wound to a father and wound to the mother is the same thing. Killing the father, killing the mother, the same thing. Wound to a Jew, there's no death for such a thing. Meaning there's a death. What? Yeah. Anybody, he's like anybody else who kills another Jew. He gets the sword. Killing another Jew gets the sword. Killing his father is a matter of dispute whether he'll get the sword or whether he'll get strangulation. If strangulation is a stronger punishment, he'll get strangulation. If sword is a stronger punishment, he gets a stronger punishment. Because he's obligated 2 deaths. 2 deaths for killing his father. 1 death for like killing every other person. It's obligated sword, like any other person. And it's obligated also the death of strangulation because he wounded his father when he killed him. So therefore he has 2 punishments of death on him for killing his father when he does it intentionally. Now the question is, which one will we give him? We give him this. We can't give him both. We can't strangle him and can't use a sword on the guy. So which one do we give him? So whichever is a more stricter one, we will give him. If sword is stricter than strangulation, he'll get the sword. If strangulation is stricter than the sword, he'll get strangulation.
I mean, we can do all that because the Mishnah said if the son kills his father, he will do exile. And now we're trying to see from the Mishnah who are the Mishnah, right?
Right, but because there's a brighter that says it seemed to indicate that if he kills his father, he does not go to exile. So the question is, how do we explain it? That's how the Gemara is explaining it, depending on how do you look at the sword. If the penalty of the sword is stronger than strangulation, and that means if a child would kill his father, he would get the sword. So therefore, he would go to exile like everybody else who kills. But the normal punishment for someone to kill someone, any person who kills another person, he gets the sword. So too, the son who kills his father, he would get the sword. And so if we hold sword is stronger than strangulation, therefore, if he does it unintentionally, he will go to exile. Now, the Gemara, according to that opinion, now the Gemara offers a different shot. Rava Amar. First word of the line is Rava. Everyone have that? And everybody got that? It's in your bones. You got it? Everyone got it clear? Mr. Safdie, good? Now, that's the order that we know. That's the famous order, right, Mr. Safdie? That's the order that we know. Skila, Eric, Chenek is the lower. Okay. Now, the Gemara says, like Mr. Safdie says, all no good. Punishment for any of these punishments. Now look at we're on 8b3. 8b3. So what does Rava Amar? Rava said, let's see if anybody's trying to get in. No one's trying to get in. Rava Amar. Rava says, Rava argues, and he has a different approach, understanding the Breita. Look at the language of the Breita. The Breita says, Make nefesh, someone who hits the nefesh, the soul, the body, the person, the life of the person, prat lemaka aviv. The Breita says it's coming to exclude somebody who hits his father. So the question is, when it says maka aviv, hitting the father, does it mean hitting the father and killing the father? Or does it mean hitting the father and wounding his father? So he wants to say, one Ariel, he wants to say, we're on Chetam base, 8b3, right bottom, Rava Amar. He says the Breita is not talking about a person killing his father. Killing his father, the child will go to Golut. Like our Mishnah says, if a person kills the father, says the person goes to Golut for killing his father. What does it mean in the Breita that the Breita excludes the child? It's talking about if the child wounds his father unintentionally. If he wounds his father unintentionally, if he would have wounded his father intentionally, he gets killed, the son. So you might have thought that if he wounds him unintentionally, he should go to exile. If he causes a black and blue mark to his father unintentionally. Right. But the Gemara is now explaining that the Breita is coming to teach us this law. That the Breita is teaching us that if a child unintentionally causes a wound to his father, he made a black and blue mark. He was swinging and he was playing basketball with his father. Watch out, by the way, about playing basketball with your son. Don't be on opposing teams, for sure not. But your son can unintentionally hit you and hurt you. So don't play basketball and be on the same team with your son. And even if you're on the same team, watch out. Even for fun. You play with your son, but an active type of sport that your son can hurt you unintentionally if you play with your son. But a type of sport, especially if the son is over bar mitzvah, the son is more than 13, you have to be extra careful because you don't want him to, this is my humble opinion, you don't want to put him in a position that he unintentionally could hurt you, which would carry the death penalty if he would have done it intentionally. What? No, there's no exile. Hey. He's joking. Right, no exile. Right. But right. But that's what I would say. No, don't play any physical sport. Don't play against your father. What is that? If he intentionally. If a child, and that's one of the reasons why. I understand, but even if he's not doing it intentionally, but you don't want him to do something that if he would have done it, that it's at the end of the day, it's still if I go ahead and desecrate the Shabbat unintentionally, it's still a sin. Sin is a sin. Now, to say that if he wounds his father unintentionally, I still think it's considered a sin. It's unintentional. I didn't mean I blocked my father My father was going up for the shot, and I blocked him, and I caused him. And by the way, some people play heavy basketball. It's very very physical. So that's what I would say. I didn't ask the post. It's my own opinion, but I would say you should not play a sport with your son where it's common or it's very good chance that your son is going to hurt you. Rebbe, that you could play. The Torah doesn't say if you hit your Rebbe, if the child you wound your rabbi, you go to get killed. There's no such punishment like that. So I would say play, no problem. I don't see a problem. But I would say, and if the student would hit the Rebbe by accident, the Rebbe understands it. No, but the Torah doesn't give such a punishment. But the Torah gives such a punishment. A person wounds his. That's what I would say. Be on the same team. At least be on the same team. Play with your kid. You could, I would think things that are not common. That I don't think it's a problem to have a catch with your son. I don't think we're afraid that you're gonna hit your son's gonna hit you and hurt you when you're having a catch or you're having that type of thing. But if it's a type of sport which is a very physical sport where you could get hurt as a result of that, I would say you should not play against him. Make sense, Ariel, or not? You can ask the posek. Does it make sense that when I'm posing to you, my son is taking me, and he's over bar mitzvah? If he's under bar mitzvah, I would be a little bit more lenient because he's not chayav if he's under 13 or a girl under 12. But we still train them not to do things, even though they're not bar bat mitzvah. But I don't know that we have to be so strict about this. Yes. There's no issue. There's no concern. No problem. What's the problem? Well, lack of. I mean, the answer is Ariel. There's a halacha. A father has the right to forgive his honor. Your son, when you walk into the room, when you'll have children. When you walk into the room, your children have an obligation to stand up. Right? When Dr. Rose walks in the room, you still have to stand up then. Now, there is a law that if you have a right to say, you don't have to stand up for me. You have a right to say that. You have a right to give away. You have a right to give away from your honor. But I will say, I don't recommend it. It's not good to do it. Why? Not because it's not good to do it because you want the honor for yourself. I want the guy to say, no. He's losing out his mitzvah. Okay, we have to put on the plug. Yeah. Okay, he's losing out his mitzvah. Thank you very much, Ariel, if you don't mind. He's losing out his mitzvah. The child is losing out his mitzvah, right, Dr. Navi? He's losing out his mitzvah. He has the ability to stand up for you and get a mitzvah, and you're moichel, and you're forgiving, and now he loses out that opportunity. Right? Thank you very much. So he's losing out his opportunity. Why take away his opportunity? And number two, there's another point. When a child is respectful to his parents, that's going to help him be a better person. Right, Ariel? When he has that respect. So for him himself, he becomes a better child, a better person by having more respect for you. You hear what I'm saying, Dr. Navid? It's better for the child. It's better for the child to be respectful. He will win a lot. Because if a child who's more respectful for his parents, he'll have more kavod, he'll treat his parents better. He'll talk to his parents differently. The fact that he knows that when his father or his mother walk into the room, he stands up, it has an effect on him. Every mitzvah you do has an effect, and he'll treat his parents differently. Yes, yeah.
Just to come back to Mishnah, so this is the chiddush that the only text in the Torah where you for wounding or killing, you're gonna kill you. Right.
Right.
So then you just get the same sentence, you go to exile.
No, but again, but for shogeg, it depends. For causing a wound, he will not go to exile.
But if you keep the shogeg, you go to exile.
If who kills B'shogeg? Okay, according to the second answer, yes. According to the second answer, he will go to exile. According to the first answer, it depends on which opinion. My second opinion is saying there's a difference between wounding a parent and by the way, you know that you're not allowed to hit a child over a certain age. We have to identify exactly, for sure, any age that the child is the child, what did it say? Kedusha. You might have to see where it is. It says you're not allowed to put a stumbling block in front of your son or your daughter. So if they are over bar bat mitzvah, stumbling block cause them to sin, to set them up the days of sin. So if they, good morning, Mr. Marcus, I got your message. Thank you. So Tuesday, we're back on Tuesday. Thank you very much. But you know your child, you know if you're going to do something to your child and it's over bas mitzvah, and that act that you're going to do, you know, there's a good chance he might hit you back. Now, if now a kid that's 5 or 6 years old, if he hits you back, it doesn't carry with it any serious punishment. He's 5 or 6, 8 or 10. But a kid who's bar or bat mitzvah, if he's 12 or 13, girl 12 or a boy 13, if it's a situation that you know that there's a concern that he might hit you back, you can't hit him. What do you mean I can't hit him? I can't hit him because I am putting the prime, Mr. Safdie, I am putting the person in a situation that child might do a big sin. And you understand, if the kid hits back, the kid is doing it intentionally hitting the parent, which would carry the death sentence for the child. No, if child gets a wound, if a child wounds a parent, child gets death penalty. The court, in the time of the court, the mazid, they would warn a child, don't wound your father. You cause a black and blue mark to your father, you get killed. That's the law for a child wounding a parent. That's why we don't let the children do a medical around their father also. Exactly what you said, that. We don't let the kid do medical things on their parent. And then they discuss it. Right, then if there's nobody else to do it and you're the best, then you have to look up the halacha. You know, if they have to know if it's a matter of life and death, you know, if it's a major operation. But no, I don't believe it can be rebel. What? Right, but it's still meaning, you know where's the gap? Being a dentist, doing your father's teeth. You're cleaning your father's teeth. There's a good chance you're going to cause him to bleed. You can't take care of your father. You can't take care of your father. You get a different dentist to do it. Same thing. Your mother, your father, you can't treat them if they're going. That's a great question. I don't believe they can be mochel you such a thing. I don't believe it's a great question. Could they be mochel you to wound them? But you're gonna cause them. You're causing them to bleed. Now the question is there a difference between? That's a good. They have to look up the minchat chinuch on this question. Maybe you'll remind me. Can a parent be mochel and allow the child to wound the parent? I don't know. I never. It doesn't sound so. But it's a good question. It's a good question. Because if that would be the case, then we wouldn't have any trouble with the child doing medical things on the parents. If it's true that you could be mochel, so why is there any halakha that the child can't do a medical thing on the parent? In general, we should just say, let him do it. The father's mochel. You hear what I'm saying? No, there is such a thing. The father could be mochel on kavod. Yeah, but here you say he's doing a losase. He's doing something, meaning kavod is maybe, I have an honor, luckily you don't have to honor me. But to do an action with that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Torah says you can't do this. Torah says you can't do this against your father. Now you want to say you're allowed to do it. You say, I'll tell you, Mr. Safdie, I'll tell you what the question is. Can you box? Are you allowed to box? Can I do boxing? Because the Torah says you're not allowed to hit another Jew. If a person hits another, that's doing an action. So it says, don't hit another Jew. So I think the Minchas Chinuch has a discussion. Can I allow someone, if I think he has a similar type of discussion, to hit me for the fun of it? They're boxing for the fun of it. But if you go ahead and you hit somebody intentionally, you are violating one of the 613 mitzvot. We're going to see in the Gemara soon, if you hit somebody, you hit the guy, and you don't cause a financial loss. You hit the guy, you hit him. You get if you were warned, you get lashed. Hitting the guy. So now the question will be, Mr. Safdie, can I box for the fun of it? You know, some people you're hitting the guy. Some people play certain games. Maybe that's not called hitting, but boxing is really hitting. Can I do that? Can I be mochel when the Torah says you can't hit another Jew? So that might also be connected to Dr. Navid's question. If you could be mochel on boxing, if you can, I'm not saying you can, then you have to say your case. Can you be mochel on causing a wound or not?
This is something that is happening every day or every hour in Friday, that if you have to stand, I want at some point say, okay, stop.
Very good.
I'm on my kapot. Going to the dentist or the boxing style one time in this life, I don't think he's going to say, I'm going to be mochel on my kapot. But even one time, and the kapot is every day.
But even in that case, even when they go into the office, and you're with your father all the time, at least one time, the beginning of the day, the end of the day, and at the end of the day, you should still show some honor, right? That would be the minimum. Even though you should do, even I think the Sfardim hold every time the guy father comes to the room, but you can be mochel, but let's just do it at least a little bit. So let's read it inside the Gemara. Rav Amar, look at we're gonna. Rav, the first word of the line is Rav Amar, Dr. Navid, right over it. Rav Amar. We're going to say it inside. Rav Amar, Prat excludes Osa Chabura, someone who makes a wound ba'aviv in his father b'shogeg, unintentionally. Salkadai Dachamina, I might have thought. Kivan sins. They've been amazed if you intentionally cause a wound to your father. Barkatalahu, you're obligated. He's a son of death. He's obligated death if he did it intentionally. B'shogeg, nami ligali. When he does it unintentionally, he should go to exile, I would think. Kamash Malan, that's what the Braita teaches us. He does not go to exile if he wounds his father unintentionally. But if he kills his father unintentionally, then he goes to exile. Therefore, there's no contradiction. The Mishnah that says he goes to exile when he killed his father unintentionally. And the Braita that says he does not go to exile when he wounded his father unintentionally. That's what the Gemara says. I wonder what you intentionally is what? Intentionally, he would never go to Golos, he never would go intentionally. Golos only about something unintentional. He does not go to exile. But you might have thought if he would have done it intentionally, he gets killed. Maybe if he does it unintentionally, he should go to exile. You would have thought that. Therefore, that's chiluk. He does not go to exile. Have a good day, everybody. How do you like that, Mrs. Safdie? Something to think about. What? Again, if he kills his father, b'shogeg, he goes to exile. So what about if he wants his father? Maybe he should go also to maybe he should go to exile. Yeah, but if he would have done it intentionally, he gets killed. He killed for wounding his father. So you're saying it might not. You're saying if he goes to exile for that. It's not the same thing. What? But there's an opinion of the Gemara that says that chenek is stronger than he would get chenek in both cases for wounding and killing.
Right?
The opinion that says that chenek is stronger, he gets chenek in both cases. Okay, have a great day, everybody. What did you say?
The Mishnah is good for-
Because according to Reb Shimon, they should not go to exile, right?
Yeah.
Because Chenek is stronger, and exile is not enough.